This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 464. I'm Brandon Schultz, and I am joined by my good buddy Adam Emmert as we are just days away from the 2025 NFL Draft.
It's coming, man, and we're really looking forward to joining the folks out at Clearwater Casino and Resort out there in Washington for the draft. That's going to be a good time, and I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready for the draft to get here. I am tired of talking about like so many different dudes that are never going to be on this team, and I just want to know what direction we've gone and start to get pumped up for the 11 future Hall of Famers that they're going to draft.
Well, I suppose this is a good time to be experiencing draft and mock draft fatigue because it's the final days, and we've looked at all the guys that I think we're going to want to look at, and just so we know, and shoot, we may not know. We might get to the first round of the NFL Draft and the Seahawks pick a dude that we haven't even broken tape on, and we're like, well, I guess this is who we have, and we'll have to then we're going back to the tape, but at least then it'll be to study guys who are actually going to be on our team.
What do you think the odds of the idea that John drafts some dude that we haven't looked at all and just really have no clue about? What do you think it is? I think it's close to 50-50.
I want to say it's closer to 60% that he takes somebody, or maybe even more, because I feel like I've prepared more this offseason than maybe in seasons past about different guys. Although, because shoot, we even went to the Shrine Bowl, Adam, and not to say that there's guys there that are going to be drafted in the first round necessarily, but there might be. I mean, Shedeur Sanders was there at the Shrine Bowl, so he's probably going to go in the first round if you listen to a lot of these draft experts.
That's something a team could do. That's true. They could draft Shedeur Sanders in the first round.
I mean, not our team, I hope.
Oh my God. Yes. Well, I'm going to save some of my draft thoughts for draft party night, but yeah, the Shedeur in the first round is an interesting conversation, no doubt about it, but a lot of interesting conversations around the draft and the Seahawks kind of leading up here. And there's been some news that's also kind of shaped maybe what's going to happen coming up in the draft.
Yeah. Well, we heard from head coach Mike Macdonald, general manager John Schneider on Monday. They had their pre-draft press conference, and they got into some of those things like quarterback valuation and whether or not guys around the league and teams around the league tend to draft that position higher than their normal kind of draft round value that you might equate with other positions. Because I mean, that's the big part of it, right? Is that if you want a guy who's going to help your team right away, you know he's good and you see that potential in him, those are the guys that you want to draft toward the top. A guy that you know is going to be on the team for however many future years, hopefully 4 full years of starting, and then, well, maybe even 5 because you get the 5th-year option in the first round. So that's the ideal goal, and a contract beyond that is even better. And a quarterback, it tends to be the hardest thing to find. And so, yeah, those guys end up getting taken early. He talked about how offensive linemen tend to get taken early. So we can get into that. But first, Adam, I want to thank our sponsor, Body Spec. If you're ready to kickstart your fitness journey, whether you're an athlete, a fitness enthusiast, whether or not you're just getting back in shape, Body Spec has you covered. For less than the price of a haircut, you can access DEXA scans, the world's most accurate body composition scan. You want to truly understand what's going on with that body of yours? Well, right now we're offering an exclusive $10 discount on single scans. Just use the code SHP at checkout. Give it as a great gift or gift it to yourself. It costs well under $100, and you and your loved ones deserve it. Body Spec DEXA scans focus on the numbers that actually matter: your body composition, bone density, and overall health metrics. It's a powerful way to take charge of your well-being without the need of insurance or complicated procedures. And the best part, while Body Spec's competitors charge $150 or more for a single scan, you get this invaluable experience for way less than $100. You got to go check out the final price for yourself. You get a premium service at a fraction of the cost. Go to bodyspec.com/C-Hawkers and use the code SHP for your special Flockers discount. All right, Adam. I see I took you off screen for the ad, but that's fine.
Hey, that's totally fine. They don't need my voice pumping up the cool stuff that Body Spec does with all the scans and everything. Sounds like John Schneider is at that moment with the draft board that he's kind of done his final scan and it's set up and he seems pretty set on the direction that they're going. And you talked about quarterbacks. So obviously Drew Lock coming back and Sam Howell possibly being traded, which is never going to happen, but like,
let's
it'd be
start,
cool.
Let's start, Adam, with the news that I feel like the most significant news that came out of the Monday press conference. And I think it did have to do with the quarterbacks because, shoot, we haven't even talked about the fact that Drew Lock is returning to the Seahawks. And John Schneider addressed it during this press conference that it means Sam Howell could be on the trade block. And probably it would make a lot of sense if they move him. What, in your mind, because I think that's the one question that some Seahawks fans out there, what is Sam Howell's trade value?
0. No, I'm dead serious.
I don't think it's zero.
You're not going to give up.
Think it's 0.
You're not going to give up even a 5th or a 6th because at this point, everybody's going to be like, yeah, I mean, he's a fringe guy at best. Like, why am I giving up a pick? I'm just going to wait for the Seahawks to release him. That's what you do. Nobody, and it's not because he's a complete 0 as a human, but just because of the situation. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. But in terms of his trade value right now with Drew Lock returning, the possibility that they add a quarterback in the draft, even if it's in the later rounds, I don't think that there's going to be a team that's going to pony up a pick. I don't think anybody's like, ooh, I'm going to give up the pick to be sure that I get Sam Howell if he gets released and he doesn't sign somewhere else because he's such a valuable commodity.
Well, here's the thing. You don't have to give up a pick. It was one of the things that we saw with the 2021 quarterbacks last offseason. A lot of those guys, like Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, like those guys, I don't think that they even gave up necessarily a pick for a lot of those teams. All they did was a pick swap. And so whether it's a 7th for a 6th or a 6th for a 5th, I tend to think probably the 7th, 6th pick swap makes the most sense. But quarterbacks have value, and he still has 1 year under contract. So I would think...
Yeah, quarterbacks have value.
Sam Howell plays the position of quarterback.
Sure.
I think there's going to be there were teams willing to take a chance on, who else Desmond Ridder did actually get traded for a player.
just wow. Yeah. There's a bunch of these dudes that hang around the league for a long time and you just think to yourself, how? Like, it really can't be that bad. There's got to be, just take any kid from college for that year and put him in and see what he could do over top of bringing somebody like Desmond Ridder back in or Bailey Zapp.
The thing about Howell, though, is that he does have starting experience. Like, he's started practically a season's worth of football games. So to some teams, they might find that valuable in a backup.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. You should really value that, other teams, and give John Schneider a call and give us some draft capital for a guy that we paid a 3rd round draft pick and a pick swap for Sam freaking Howell. I hated the move at the time. I said he couldn't play, and I stand by everything that I said about that.
Well, and with the idea of Drew Lock returning, doesn't that make it feel kind of silly that we even allowed Drew Lock to go in the first place? I know now maybe because he wanted that chance to start, he felt like the Giants' opportunity was probably a better opportunity for him to start than sitting behind Geno. But, gosh, it just makes me think we could have just kept Drew Lock, and he's not making a whole lot of money. He didn't make a whole lot of money for the Giants. If you do that contract just for the idea that, well, if Geno gets hurt, then he's going to make a little bit more within his contract. But I know it had to make sense for Drew, it had to make sense for the Seahawks. It feels like a waste of a draft pick last year to have this all happen. And now Drew Lock's just back and here. And instead of Geno, we have Sam Darnold. And it just feels like not much has changed except we're down that draft pick from last year.
Oh, a lot's changed. We got worse at the starting quarterback position, arguably. And the guy that you gave up a 3rd round pick last year turned out to be unplayable. And so you lit that on fire. And now you're bringing Drew Lock back, which I actually really like that move. I think that's great. That makes me feel a lot more comfortable at the backup position. Is Drew Lock a superstar quarterback? Absolutely not. But I trust him a heck of a lot more than I trust Sam Howell in terms of playing the position and coming in and maybe getting you through 2-3 games. He wasn't amazing when he came in and played for the Seahawks, but
got a win.
He got a win. He had the come from behind victory over the Eagles, the big throw to JSN. And he had the one huge game for the Giants when he was over there. And you're right. He wanted to go and start and have an opportunity to make his mark and have that Geno-sance that Geno had a few years ago. And didn't quite pan out for him. And so he's back. And I think that's an upgrade at QB2 for the Seahawks. And, you know, it gives you a little bit of insurance. If for some reason Sam Darnold comes out and can't perform at the level that he did with the Vikings and he looks more like the Sam Darnold from the Panthers, you've got another guy that you can trot out there and try, and just a little bit of a security blanket there. And I think it's smart. And it does take some of the pressure off having to push up some of these quarterbacks, because you were talking about earlier the idea of quarterbacks being pushed up, and John speaking to that. And I think this year it's the Kenny Pickett year. Those two drafts stand out to me as drafts that guys got wildly pushed up. I mean, we're talking the Desmond Ritters of the world.
Yeah. And he wasn't even pushed up that far. He was taken in, the third round?
Right, exactly. And I think this year you're going to be, after this draft is concluded, we see these guys play in the league for a while. I think guys like the Tyler Shucks, the Jackson Darts, and some of those guys, you're going to look at them much like you looked at Malik Willis and think to yourself, why in the world did somebody, decide that this was a second round worthy player or a first round worthy player? And I think the guys are getting pushed up a little extra high this year.
Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about that in your quarterback evaluation episode. And the weird thing about it is that some guys seem to be getting pushed up for incomprehensible reasons. Like they just don't seem like they're that great of a quarterback. But then, you talked about Jalen Milroe. He was your number 2 guy. And then right after you came out with that, it seemed like the rest of the media started coming out with these stories about how Jalen Milroe might be moving up some people's draft boards. And gosh, we even started to see the draft, the sites where you go and you do some of the mock drafts, that people started also taking Milroe earlier and earlier too. And so I don't, I'd like to attribute it to you, but I also think part of it is people start to get caught up on some of the film and maybe start, I think agents push a lot of this.
Yeah. I think agents push a lot of it. I think it's a little bit of TikTok brain that sets in. I think everybody's attention span, and me included, I'm not immune to this. I think everybody in America, our attention spans have become shorter and shorter and shorter for all the reasons that we already know. And so draft process starts, people get locked in on Jackson Dart. Ooh, Jackson Dart. Like everybody's overlooking this guy. And then everybody gets locked in on Tyler Shuck for a minute. Ooh, Tyler Shuck. Like that's really cool. And then all of a sudden now it's Jalen Milroe. And now it's back to, does Shedeur actually get taken in the first round? Is the slide everybody was talking about 2 weeks ago not real? And it just, I think it's just a matter of we're looking for something to talk about, man. And people get excited about certain things and it permeates throughout the interwebs for a minute. Everybody has their moment. And I think all these quarterbacks are having their moment in the pre-draft process for sure.
Well, we've got a couple of interviews coming up with offensive lineman Marcus Wehr of Montana State. We've got Kyonte Hamilton of Rutgers, a defensive tackle, and a guy who played nose tackle too. A couple of guys that we talked to at the Shrine Bowl this year. But before we get there, Adam, was there anything else from the press conference with John Schneider that hit you especially hard?
Yes. I didn't know if you knew this, but talking about an offensive line that's been bad for a decade is a lazy narrative. I don't know if you heard that. That's a lazy narrative this is why this annoyed me. When you say that's a lazy narrative, what you're usually trying to say is, look, people fall into that because it kind of sort of seems to be true. But if you really look at it, it's not true. It's a lazy narrative. John Schneider looking at all of us dead in the eye and saying that, the idea they need to do something about the offensive line is a lazy narrative made me want to punch my screen, because it's the exact opposite of the definition of what a lazy narrative is, because it's the literal stone cold fact truth. And I know he's tired of it. I know he's tired of being asked about it. I get it. And I'm sure he can't wait for this draft to be over and draft 3 great guards and give everybody the bird like me, and I'll be happy. But yeah, at this point, that's one, dude, lazy narrative because all the other teams are looking for offensive linemen too. Yeah, okay, that may be true, John, but you understand, like, ours has literally been the worst, if not one of the worst, for the past decade. So
it was a little bit insulting too, because even the way that the question was framed was, hey, by a lot of objective measures from not just us dumb reporters, but from people who study offensive line and grade and rank offensive line, John, yours has been graded and ranked as one of the worst for years. And okay, I maybe played it up as far as how the question was phrased, but it's essentially how the question was phrased.
That's how the question was phrased. I think you maybe just played up the tone a tiny bit is all. Just with the emphasis of, like, this has been dog catfish for years, buddy.
I did add my own tone.
Yeah. I think he was trying to be a little more respectful, whoever the reporter was that asked. And John just not having it yet again. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But once you take action and things start to improve in that area, then you won't have to answer the question anymore. So just do your thing and get it right. And you've limited some of the bites he had at the apple this offseason to actually do that. And so, boy, you better make it happen. But I listen to that and I think about 18, and not that I'm hell bent on them taking an offensive guard like it at 18.
I don't even know
when
if
I
they
hear
should.
that, I'm like, I don't think they're going to do it at all. I don't know. Do you have any sense of 18 since listening to the pre-draft presser and all that? You change your mind at all
of what they're going to do? Because he talked about whether or not they could trade up, they could trade back. He got a call from a guy on another team asking him if they're going to trade up, but the other team thought, oh, well, we might trade back. And it was a waste of his time. That was one of the other interesting moments of the press conference. But I don't have a sense of what they're going to do other than that, based on the way that the draft board seems to, the types of players that are intriguing to me. It worries me that most of those guys are gone by 15. And the idea that they have 5 picks in the top 100, it does seem like they're primed to make a move up. And with some of this discussion about how there's not a lot, you don't gain a whole lot anymore about moving back, it kind of seems like, well, maybe there is something to gain then this year by moving up if you have that opportunity.
Interesting. Because I've been thinking about it the last few days, and I kind of came to the complete opposite conclusion about that. And the only reason being is everybody's talking about it being kind of more of a meat and potatoes kind of draft, right?
Sure.
Difference between, 30 and pick 60. There's not a heck of a lot of difference in terms of the entire amount of talent, but from about 16 on to maybe like 50 or 60, there's starters all through there. Lots of starters.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, well, heck, if you can somehow trade down, which I don't think there's going to be a lot of first round trades listening to everybody else talk about it, and just because of the way the draft is shaken out in terms of talent. If you could move down even more and accumulate more picks and just say you picked up 5 starters out of this draft, but you didn't get an all pro.
Right.
Like 5 quality starters. Yes, please. I could do that, especially if there was 2 to 3 in the trenches. Now I'm excited. And we kind of go from there. Whereas like trading up, okay, so you trade up for one of those few dudes that is potentially an all pro or a real difference maker, but then you take away a lottery ticket or 2 further on in the draft where it's supposedly loaded with a lot of starters for quite a ways.
And I'm not talking about trading up like a real significant difference. I'm talking about going from 18 to 13 or 14. Like if that's in the wheelhouse and all you have to do is give up, that 3rd round pick or something, then maybe it ends up being worth it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't have the only big feeling I have about this draft is that I would like them to try to address interior offensive line with 2 out of the first 5 picks. It doesn't have to be the first 2. It could be the last 2 of the first 5 picks, or if they reconfigure through trades or whatever. I just want them to spend draft capital from the 3rd round up to address that problem, rather than trying to rely on a philosophy that we've used for years and years of trying to dig up guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, and the hit rate is really poor.
Well, it does bring me to one of my biggest fears for the draft, Adam, but I will save that because we've got a couple of really nice interviews. But when we get back, I'm going to tell you what you said. It has triggered one of my big fears that has to do with the 2025 draft. With these guys that we talked to at Shrine Bowl, probably talking about later round guys too, with Marcus Wehr, Kyonte Hamilton. Although I have seen Kyonte Hamilton starting to get some love as a potential draft sleeper, Adam. And why don't we kick things off with Kyonte Hamilton? We got a chance to talk to him at Shrine Bowl, and just a delightful dude that he wasn't originally invited, but showed up partway in because he got the invite. Some guys left. They called him up, and man, oh man, this guy, just in terms of his personality, we could talk a little bit after the interview too, but I think that one of the things that's going to stand out for anyone listening is that this dude's personality is infectious.
It sure is. He was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy.
We are at Shrine Bowl 2025, and we're joined by Kyonte Hamilton, a Rutgers defensive lineman. Keonte, really nice to sit down with you here at the Shrine Bowl, and excited to talk to you about kind of what's been your experience so far. Well, let's start off with that. What really led you to be here at Shrine Bowl?
So actually, I got the call up late, so I'm not sure if people went down or there were some injuries or whatever, but I was at home. I know some of the guys came in about Thursday or Friday. I was at home until Saturday, got the call, and they were like, yo, we want you here. So I was like, okay. I was on the first thing smoking on Sunday morning. I ended up coming to the hotel, pretty much getting everything situated, squared away here. Did some meetings and stuff, just get into the groove of things. And the next morning I had practice. So it's been definitely a fast pace, definitely a quick turnaround, but I've been enjoying it every moment.
Which morning was your first practice then?
Monday morning. So
yeah, that's you come into it part way. Then what's it like kind of getting to know and jumping right in with some of those teammates that have been here now for a couple of days?
I mean, it wasn't hard to get adjusted. There was a couple of kids here that I was training with back at a facility in Fort Myers called X3. And then there's a couple people I've played against and known since I was a kid. There's a couple guys from Maryland here that I've known before. So it definitely wasn't hard to get adjusted. I'm a social guy, so I'll come in and start talking, making jokes, whatever. And it was pretty quickly I got introduced into the team and then kind of just made myself fit in, and we all been laughing and joking since I've been here, so it's been a great experience.
As far as that goes, it's wild that you just kind of get an invite. So is there any kind of disappointment, nobody called me for one of these All-Star Bowl games, and then you're sitting at home and then the call comes through? Or is it something that you're waiting on, or is it something that could happen, or is it just out of the blue? So
I got invited to the Hula Bowl, so okay. I did that one to begin the training and stuff.
Gotcha.
And played all the way through, played the game, and had a pretty good week. So of course, there's this hope that you get invited to the East West game, but it wasn't something that was dreading me on my mind. I was up at X3 just training every day, getting of course ready for pro day and stuff like that. So yeah. I was just taking it day by day. I wasn't really super waiting on a call, but when I got it, I was excited. So it was kind of just me sitting there. I was eating breakfast, watching TV, got the call, and was like, okay, whenever you need me. So it was definitely a cool experience.
As a senior, are you then looking do you have it planned out? These are the different opportunities for me to show myself and what I can do going to the pro level? Do you have those kind of planned out in your mind, or is it just, okay, once pro days start rolling around?
So basically I would say it isn't more so mapped out because you don't know what opportunities are going to be presented to you. This one, I didn't know whether or not I was going to get it.
Yeah.
So going there is just always in my mind where it's if anybody shows up or if there's any opportunity, there are things I would do behind closed doors when nobody's watching. I'm going to do those same things when I get the call up. So it's I'm always going to go hard. I'm always going to give 100% no matter what I'm doing, so that when I do get the call up, I'm always ready for it. And I had a pretty good first day just being out here getting into the swing of things. And also, I wasn't out of football for a month because I did the Hula Bowl. So I was just kind of not knocking the rust off, but just getting back into the swing of things. So it wasn't like, of course, I'm not mapping out every opportunity, but if it's given to me, I'm going to make sure I make the most of it.
What's been one of your favorite moments then here so far, just in these 2 days?
I've just been having fun with like team periods and one-on-ones. I mean, those are always like just loving to play football. I've loved to play football my entire life. So just being able to put the helmet back on one more time before we get to training camp or hopefully whatever team takes me. Just being able to put that R back on one more time and represent the college I came from. It's been great.
Heck yeah. So speaking of the R, went to Rutgers, head coach Greg Schiano, a lot of NFL experience. Do you find that the coaching style that you got there at Rutgers, being somebody that had an NFL background, has helped you now as you're starting to make the jump to the league?
Oh, for sure. He taught us a lot about like football IQ, a lot about just different things we can use on the field, but he also taught us a great deal about life off the field, how to navigate things, how to go through certain things. So just having him as a coach, he was a great person to be around, just somebody that you could really learn from. It definitely gives you an advantage. Like we have the chop mindset. We're very like culture instilled. So it definitely gives you a little bit of an advantage going into like some of these interviews and some of these meetings because you can surprise some of the scouts with like certain things you're saying or what you come from and with like the type of background he has definitely helps you better in the NFL. As
an interior defensive lineman, what is kind of your approach? Like how do you go into a game and approach what you're going to face on any kind of game day?
First thought is double teams. So it's just trying to be able to defeat those because it's mainly what you're getting inside zone, stuff like that. So it's just your first approach is just stopping the run. And then if you stop the run well enough, you get the opportunity to rush the passer, which is what every D lineman wants. Every D lineman wants the opportunity to go get a sack. Of course, I want that as well. So you play running well enough, hopefully you get that opportunity. So that's just my mindset is just work on it as best I can, being stout in run defense, get as many stops as I can. We would love to get third and long. And at that point, I can go use whatever I need to try to get something.
So you talked about stopping the run. And as fans, we hear a lot about offenses attacking with a run scheme that's either a zone scheme or a gap scheme. With those two, is there a big difference for you playing on the interior of the defensive line in terms of how to stop those? And if so, is there one that you rather face and attack, or is there one that gives you more problems?
I would say zone scheme is a little bit more simple because gap schemes, there's a lot of like pulling guards, pulling tackles, stuff like that. So it's just more techniques. Neither one's really like super hard as like you're kind of studying tape and just watching the film. Zone schemes more so just like double teams coming straight at you, trying to basically bump you out the way. And gap schemes is just like if I'm playing 3 tech against the guard and that guard pulls, I have to kind of track it over the top or I have to chase it down. So the way our scheme was, we either tracked it over the top or we chased it down depending on whatever play we were playing. So it's just a little different technique wise of how you're playing those two types of games. But luckily most teams either run one or the other, so you don't have to prepare for both. So that's the upside of it.
One of my favorite things, asking so many of the players that have been through here at Shrine Bowl, is finding out how they got into football. Because for everybody, it seems like it's kind of a different journey. You know, sometimes it's their parent or was into football. For some, it's just they decided that maybe basketball wasn't for them and they started playing football. What's that been like for you? What got you into football? So
I started playing football when I was 4 years old. I was playing contact, and I ended up joining a team because my dad was playing football. 4? Yeah. So, funny story is I went to go play on this team, and they only had 11 kids, and I was the 12th kid. I just joined the team like late, not mid-season, but after the first couple games. And one of the kids had like an injury where they broke his leg. So I was playing like tackle, like literally offensive tackle at like 4 years old contact. And it was 6 and under. So I wasn't supposed to be 6 and 5 year old. But they never checked the ID, so I was like, all right, cool. I played up until I was 4.
You had ID when you were 4 year old?
I guess my parents did. So. But they never like really checked anything, and I fell in love with it since then. Been playing it since.
So you started off on the offensive line.
Yep.
When did you find out that interior defensive line was the position for you?
Not until I got to college.
Yeah.
I played O-line for like 2 seasons. When you're young, everybody plays whatever. And then after that, I ended up playing running back and quarterback growing up. I ended up playing quarterback and middle linebacker my first year in high school. And then after that, I played tight end and outside linebacker mainly. And then when I came to college, I was just like a 3-star athlete, but I was mainly going for tight end. I was practicing, training at tight end all summer, and then training camp came, and he was like, "Yo, we're going to move you to nose." And I was like, he's like, that's
wildly different.
I was like, I'll take it, like whatever, because the first thing he said to me was like, "Hey, I ended up wrestling a kid on the beach as like the wrestling background." And it was like a huge thing, like one of those like group team events. You go on the beach, have fun or whatever right after like summer training's over before camp starts. And I wrestled another wrestler on the beach, and coach told me, he was like, "Yeah, I saw your explosive in the sand. We're going to move you to nose." He was like, that's the best opportunity to like get you playing early, and ended up playing that season. About halfway through, I started getting some legitimate reps, and then been there ever since.
So what's been the more beneficial experience for you, having the wrestling background or having the background of playing so many different positions?
I would say both help, just because my entire college experience, I played multiple positions. So every year I either played nose and 3-tech or nose 3-tech and end. So that's definitely just helped, like being able to play the multiple positions, just learning the playbook through and through. And then the wrestling background just helps with the on the field stuff, just like leverage, hand fighting. Like pass rush is all about defeating the hands. You beat the hands, you beat the man is the common saying. That's all wrestling has ever been. It's just hand fighting. So they both definitely help, like in their own right, to make you the best football player you can be.
So as fans, we have a hard time kind of tracking what you guys do on the interior, right? It's not a place that your eye goes to right away, for the most layman fans. So one of the things we're trying to do is kind of bring some awareness to the trenches, man. That's where the game is won and lost. The big friggin' deal. What would be one thing that you wish fans understood about your job as a nose tackle that maybe kind of flies under the radar that we wouldn't know about?
I would honestly say there's a difficult job when it comes to like reappearing in a gap, because you have two guys like 600 pounds pushing on you and trying to get back there. And like a lot of times I will say, honestly, not too many fans get on the D line. They get on the linebackers, but you have to realize sometimes it is the D line's fault. Like there's certain times like you don't get in a gap fast enough, or you're not reappearing fast enough, and someone hits your gap and they blame it on the people behind us, because that's really all you see. So I would say that like going for them, I would say that's harder, because a lot of the brunt of it falls in the safeties when they're getting beat deep in like with the receiver, or the linebackers are getting beat when a run hits the middle. But sometimes it is the D-line fault. There's also other times where you have to understand that they're 600 pounds pushing a guy every play. And that's hard to deal with.
So, yeah, that's tough. So when you're talking about reappearing, is that kind of like a two-gap kind of a thing, or are you playing one gap at that point? Or maybe explain that a little further for us.
So reappearing as like a nose or a 3-tech or even a DN is where you have like that double team. Like if you're playing the A-gap, and I'm sitting there and I hit the center and the guard's on my hip, once he releases, I have to reappear in that A-gap. If I don't reappear fast enough with a great back will hit that hole while my back's turned and he's gone. And a lot of people might see that as being a linebacker's fault or a safety's fault for missing a tackle on open field.
It's always a linebacker's fault. It's those guys. Yeah.
And that's the thing where it's like, I wish some people would be like, all right, let me go out here and try to make a tackle on a guy from 20 yards away while he has nobody else around him. That is a difficult task to make. So there's times where like the linebackers can miss a gap and hits the safeties, or a D-line can miss a gap and hits the linebackers. And those are both very hard to make those plays.
Well, and playing a little bit off of what Adam said, a lot of times for fans and how they follow games, it's through statistics. And really being like a nose tackle, like other than getting sacks or TFLs, maybe forcing some fumbles, is there another stat like that could be helpful in having fans understand like how tough it is at that position? Like, I don't know whether or not it's double teams, whether or not there's something that you do that would be beneficial than if it were to show up on a stat sheet.
Let's say like either gap integrity or like knockback, like doing those two things as a D lineman really would like help out the team. Because at the end of the day, if you're playing DN or nose and they're running the ball the other way the entire game, you're not going to make a lot.
Right.
There's not going to be a lot of stats to be made. But if you're doing faster. Well in your gap, that's the only thing you really do. If you're playing well in your gap, you're knocking guys back, you're doing your job. Like that's kind of what it all comes down to. Are you doing your job? Then I feel like fans would see it more. If that were the stat. Of course, that'll never be the case. The stats come in the big plays and stuff like that. Yeah. But there's certain times where you're not going to make a lot of plays, but as long as you're doing your job, you're fine. So
one of the things that we've asked all you guys that have come by the table here is, do you have any football pet peeves, any little things that just like really annoy you? And they can be silly stuff like offensive linemen who don't brush their teeth and their breath stinks, and you have to be across from them. Anything like that?
I would say it's just like the biggest pet peeve, and I think it's just any D lineman is just like holding. Yeah. Like when it's like not called by the ref because you're just in there. There's nothing you can say because you can complain, you can say whatever you want, but if the flag doesn't come out, it's not hold.
Yeah, keep throwing your arms in the air.
Yeah, just keep throwing your arms in the air, hoping for something to happen. But I would say it's definitely one of the biggest pet peeves, and it would be like it's not the blatant holding, it's like the little bit, like the little snag while you're coming off of somebody, and you're just like, hate you.
Yeah, exactly.
What's one of the games that if we were to go back and watch, like what's a Keonte game that you really stood out?
I would say Washington and UCLA. Probably the biggest two. Washington had a lot of tackles. UCLA, I made a lot of like disruption and more noise. So I would say those two.
Any games where you look back and go, man, I really could have improved on that one?
There hasn't been many games this season where I feel like I wasn't doing my job or like I was just like getting my butt kicked. But I would say just like USC, it was a lot of just like perimeter runs and like
they were holding you all the time.
It wasn't so much the holding. It was just like there wasn't much I could do. Like sometimes they could take the line out of it with just like quick game and like like running kind of away from you or outside. So that was one of the games I didn't have a lot of, I don't want to say statistics, but like I didn't have a lot of production just because I didn't really have many opportunities.
Better feeling, stuffing a running back in the hole or taking down a quarterback?
Taking on a quarterback.
Yeah, they deserve
Getting a
it.
sack is so much better because it just happens so rarely.
Yeah.
Like you might get 2 to 3 per game, maybe 4 on like a good day, like for like an entire team.
Oh, yeah.
So being one of those 3 or 4, that's definitely a great feeling.
Nice.
He is Kyonte Hamilton, defensive lineman for Rutgers. Kyonte, really want to thank you for taking the time coming on and talking ball with us.
Thank you.
There he is, Kyonte Hamilton out of Rutgers. And yeah, Adam, that was one of the things that stuck with me was that if you're looking for a culture guy, like just a dude that is going to come in and fit in with everybody, like he strikes me as a guy who comes into a room and it doesn't matter like what your background is, like he's going to find a way to connect with you and just like be a good teammate.
Yeah, he has to be with that sort of infectious personality in also too, not being overwhelmed by the moment that he's going through here in this draft process where, you know, it feels like it's been a little up and down for it, like starting out and not being invited to Shrine. And then last second, hey, do you want to come? Heck yeah, I want to come. I'll come compete. Yeah. Just tell me when to show up. Like, I don't even need hardly any of the details. I'll be there. I'll roll out my helmet. We'll call it good. And those are the types of guys that really do help build a culture for a football team and not intimidated by, you know, the best of the best, but, also probably not too big for his britches, like you were saying, to connect with just about anybody in a delightful human.
Well, another guy that we got to connect with was offensive lineman Marcus Wehr, played tackle at Bozeman at the university or at Montana State University, and played at all. We saw him playing at guard. We saw him snapping the ball a little bit, and those were some of the things that we got a chance to talk to him about. Is finding where he might go in the NFL, what position it might be, and making that transition from the level of competition at the level of Montana State University. Now, they were national champions, but we're talking about a couple of divisions up. But shoot, we did this interview before Gray Zabel was getting all kinds of run as a potential first-round pick.
Absolutely. And, you know, same level of competition, boys and girls. And people are talking about Gray Zabel as a possible first rounder, much to our little flocker, Dave Bloomy's chagrin. But yeah, I enjoyed our time with Marcus. And look, man, if they want to just bring in another dude who could play guard. Like, I'm cool with it, especially a Montana boy. And he was delighted as well.
We are joined by Marcus Wehr, the guard out of Montana State. Oh, I say guard, Marcus, but I've seen you play all over the offensive line here at Shrine Bowl. Has that been a strategy of yours? Is that just something that the coaches want to see? What position are you is basically what I'm trying to get at.
Whatever. Versatility is key, especially in the NFL. You know, they only travel, I think, 8 offensive linemen in the 53-man. So, you know, if you're going to play inside, you got to basically play left guard, center, right guard. So, yeah. So has it been new to you at all, like, out there snapping the football? Is that something I was wondering about that. Is that something that takes a lot of practice, or is it just handing the ball to the guy behind you? No, I feel like you definitely need to just consistency and training it every day, getting in a rhythm. But no, I haven't trained a whole lot of center. I'm just doing it in like one-on-one situations. Just to show I can play it. But no, I never played left guard, so it's different. You know, you're flipping your hips one way, and then you go to right guard and you got to flip your hips, and then you got to think about, okay, well, now I'm on the left side, so I'm going the opposite way on this run play. But it's been good. So, yeah. For someone who's played at a position, you know, your whole life, and then you're asked to do something a little bit differently, is it something that just takes, you know, a day or two before then you start to feel comfortable, or is it something that you don't ever really feel comfortable until you've done it for a certain amount of time? Yeah, I feel like it definitely takes a little while. Just when you play right side for so long, your hips kind of get like set in a position to where, you know, your right foot's like kind of like back all the time. You know, when I line up to play center, like I just automatically want my right foot to be back just because you get in it for 3-4 years, and then you're just like that. And then you're like, remember, okay, I got to be square at center. And then, left guard, you got to have your left foot back, which is not natural, just coming from right side,
So, Marcus, as Seahawks fans, we went through a year here with an offensive coordinator that loved to play everything out of shotgun. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot on our show is the difference between 4 offensive linemen, whether you guys are running plays out of shotgun or under center. Mm-hmm. Is there an advantage to an offensive lineman, whether it's run or pass, it doesn't really matter, playing when the quarterback's under center and what that looks like to being in shotgun? Because I've heard some people say that being under center, you're able to kind of fire off the ball, maybe play a little more aggressively. Is that a truism or is that a misconception?
I don't really think so.
Okay.
Playing guard, I don't know. It depends on the cadence that you're playing with. We did a lot more shotgun than under center, so I guess shotgun was more natural hearing that cadence. And then when you got under center, it was different. So, O-linemen are like trained cattle. As soon as you get like a cadence, you're always trying to jump it. And then the OC is going to change it. Like we changed it once and it kind of pissed me off, but
yeah.
Just cause he's like, oh, we got to change up the rhythm. I'm like, listen, when you hear the same cadence for 2 years and then you change it, then you're like kind of playing on your heels. Cause you got to really like sit in there until the cadence comes. So,
right.
So what got you into playing football?
I don't know. It's just,
where did it start for you?
Yeah.
Was it just, like in
it was
grade
like a little
school?
guy,
Was it
flag football, all your friends played, so you played, and my older brother was on the team. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just what I played.
Did you start off at any particular position? Once you started playing organized football, like where did you start?
Let's see. When I played little guy football, first I played tight end and defensive end. And then like when we went to school football, I played defensive line and we ran the wing tee. So I think I played quick guard. So I was the second polar. And then high school, I played strong tackle in the same offense and then defensive tackle.
And at any of that point, having that tight end part in your background, have you talked to coaches and say, hey, I can run a tackle eligible pass play. Get me the ball, coach.
I tried to, but no, they never tried. No, not at all. I harped like every year, hey, like get me, especially because like we were up on teams a lot.
Yeah.
And 2 points when you're up 50-7.
Right.
Isn't going to change a whole
throw
lot.
Me out there.
And like, we were all about like, oh, let's put in this because they have to like then prepare for it the next week.
Yeah.
But no, nothing ever came about. Unfortunate.
It is too bad. Now, Brandon had mentioned that you played some defensive line throughout your football history here.
Yeah.
Having played on the defensive line and now playing primarily offensive line, not primarily, but solely offensive.
Yeah.
Does that give you some advantage, having some maybe insight into the way that defensive line players are thinking or anything like that?
Yeah, I think so. Just understanding like techniques and like hand placement, as D linemen are always taught hands inside. So I think definitely in the run game, I feel like I have my hands inside consistently. And then just learning like, the angle of how the D line is set up. Is he tighter and more angled inside to where you get an inside move or a stunt or something like that. So yeah, I think it's definitely been helpful.
What players here at Shrine Bowl do you feel like have challenged you the most?
The D tackle from Indiana, he's a big dude.
Yeah, we were just talking to him. Yeah.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know the SMU defensive lineman. I don't know if he plays like edge and interior or something like that. He's the one with the dreads. He's a good player.
Has it been eye-opening at all being at an event quite like this? Just because you're used to a certain level of competition, then you come to an all-star competition type level. Is it anything that has stood out to you or anything that surprised you at all?
I don't know. Just game's faster, especially playing at the FCS level. Everybody's fast. Can't just run at somebody and expect to get there. You got to take better angles. But yeah, and everybody's bigger, faster, stronger. But I really didn't know what to expect coming in. Just kind of like playing at the FCS level. You never really know until you get here.
Right.
But it's been good.
Yeah. Well, it's looked good while you've been out there. That's for sure. I mean, we knew you were going to be here, and obviously rooting for you as being a fellow Montana guy and everything. And then, watching you out there in your 1-versus-1s and looking good. It was cool to see.
Yeah.
Offensive linemen don't get a lot of shine. And as fans, we often focus on the perimeter players and skill players and all that. What is maybe the biggest misconception that fans have about what it is to play offensive line? Like what about playing offensive line is there that we just don't understand that would maybe be something that's enlightening to us?
I don't know. I feel like most people think it's just easy. Like just regular fans.
Yeah,
just like,
exactly.
You just stand there and get in the way, right?
Yeah,
That's all you
Yeah,
do.
what are you doing, Marcus? Come on.
They just run into you,
Yeah.
but like when you see those dudes in the NFL and most of the D linemen are like bigger than the O linemen and faster. And they're charging at you and you're backpedaling. I don't think people understand like truly how hard that is. They have a 5-second or a 5-yard head start on you and you're backing up, and you got to prepare for speed, inside move, power,
the whole nine, right?
Everything. And you can't guess. You just got to be prepared for everything, and react. So, yeah.
So we saw you out there with Coach Odom of the Seahawks, and we picked up early on, just on the very first day, he was calling you by your first name. Did you have familiarity with him at all before this event, or
no?
Okay.
He was just trying to like get everybody's name as fast as possible. But no, he's a good coach. I like him.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that maybe you had stood out in some way early on because there's not a lot of FCS guys here, is there?
No, I know like the only one I know from our division is Efton Chisholm, who I guess is kind of balling out here. So it's kind of cool to see another FCS dude. And he was balling out this whole season. So yeah, it's cool to see.
So one of the things I've been asking everybody, Marcus, is do you have any football pet peeves? Like, is there anything that like teammates do or opposing teams do? It can be small stuff, like just I hate it when a guy gets like really close and is breathing like right in my face or just anything like that. Like any football pet peeves.
I don't know. Probably when we played Idaho over there 2 years ago, I swear they didn't use deodorant. And it's a dome.
Oh, yeah.
So we're like, gosh, these dudes smell horrible.
Right.
And we were like, what? Like, why? And then, we play here or at home and you don't smell it. So I don't know, something with the dome. But
too many potatoes.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. But no, I don't really have any pet peeves, I guess.
That's a good enough one right there. Yeah.
Just when somebody when the guy next to you, like maybe goes the wrong way or I don't know, something like that. But I'm pretty chill. So
right on, man.
Yeah. If we were to ask you like which game of Marcus Wehr that we should go and watch to really get an idea of the best that you put forward on tape, what game would that be?
I don't know. Games like flash by and like you just like forget about them. But you can forget. You remember all the plays you screwed up.
Exactly. Right.
Well, so which game would that be?
Screwed up?
Yeah. Which game do you think back to? And man,
probably my worst game was Northern Colorado.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I just remember that game being not very good. But a good, played well versus New Mexico. I thought played well against South Dakota.
I was going to say, you must have played well overall if you made it to the championship game.
He's the only two-time Montana first team All-Pro in state history or something crazy like that too. So
yeah,
obviously you did pretty well. And then I would have to think too that being at a place like this and going up a guy like CJ West and, you know, holding your own, like, it has to give you some confidence then too. Like, you're like, okay, I can do this at the next level then too.
Yeah, no, definitely. When you get a good block, it feels good. But you just got to understand that, you know, one good block doesn't mean anything for the next block. Just got to be like a blank sheet of paper out there. You know, good play, bad play, next play. So yeah, consistency is key, especially at the NFL level. You know, great players aren't, you know, up and down. They're just consistently good, and that's what makes them great. So yeah.
He's Marcus Wehr, Montana State offensive lineman. Marcus, really want to thank you for taking the time and coming on the show and talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
There you have it. Our interviews with Kyonte Hamilton, Marcus Wehr. And Marcus, he was a good time, man. Not an interview that we had not scheduled, and we just kind of flagged him down because we knew he was a Montana guy. We're like, hey, you have a minute to talk? And he's like, sure. Sits down with us, has a chat, and had a good time talking offensive line with him.
Heck yeah, man. Look, at the end of the day, the dudes who play in the trenches, both defensive and offensive, they seem like they're the most personable dudes in the entire league by far. And yeah, I enjoy talking to all of them, man.
Do you think it's because they don't have just any desire to be the guy, like, looked at as, like, they just want to do their part? They know their role and they want to do their role and do it well. Like, they don't need to be the center of attention. That's why they end up being those more personable type guys.
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the dudes that play skill position in, you know, receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, all that stuff, they get sunshine blowing up their ass, like, from the age of like 6. And it can't help but, like, inflate your ego to a degree. And some dudes do a fantastic job with it. And it's really way better than I would ever do. And then there's some dudes, like, you can tell it really does just gas them up to a huge degree. And yeah, offensive linemen, they don't get that kind of love. In fact, they probably get still shamed at school when they wear their jersey, like, before a game day because they're still the fat kid or something, right? So,
could be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it does bring me, Adam, to my biggest concern going into this draft. And one of the comments, I guess, that I heard from both John Schneider and Coach Mike Macdonald is they talk about how much they like their guys. And when I hear that, it also makes me think that they're including offensive line. And I think that they do. And so do they like their guys, especially at the offensive line spots, so much that they really don't think that they need to address it? As like you said, 2 picks in the first 5, like that feels right to me. They should do that, but I kind of think that they won't.
If I had to put money on it, I would put money on one of the first 5 and then maybe another one towards the back half of the draft.
Yeah.
And I won't be apoplectic if they go that route, as long as they try to address it with at least one premium-ish pick. Like, that would be nice. If they completely just go away from that and just draft like 2-3 dudes late, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th round, I mean, we'll see what the results would be going down the stretch for this next year. But at that point, if the results are still terrible and he didn't happen to hit on those late round guys, which is really hard to do, by the way, not just John Schneider, like any GM, which is why I can't understand the strategy of, like, just pushing this off to the late rounds every year. But if it doesn't look good by the end of next year and that's the way they went, like, it's time for John to go. Like, that's real hot seat stuff.
I mean, unless the 2 guys are Marcus Wehr and Drew Kendall, then, you know, they probably hit it out of the park with some of the late round guys.
Well, there you go. But that's the thing, is if they drafted the late round guys and on draft night, I'm like, look, they didn't take this seriously and I'm frustrated with it, and they happen to hit, then of course, then John's a genius, right? And I'm an idiot, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, if they are really counting on their guys, as you were talking about, in this massive amount of faith that seems to be given to Benton, the offensive line coach,
right?
which I've tried to get in on some of these offensive line coaches. You remember how fired up I was about Andy Dickerson and how that went nowhere? Yeah. You know, and so
although he may have been our best offensive line coach that we've had in the last 8 years.
Yeah. And he could only do so much with what he had been provided and the way the scheme is being ran. And so the results weren't fantastic, but it was better than what we had last year.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time putting so many eggs into the basket of, well, Benton will coach him up. Look what he did with the Saints.
And the scheme, right? The scheme will fix part of the problems, and it will.
It'll help. It'll help. Yeah, it has to help.
Not asking a quarterback to drop back 65% of the time plus will help.
Right. And, some people speak to the way that Benton coached up some of the players with the Saints and like, well, look, he took them from bad to he made them better, is like significantly better is what you always hear. And then you actually look at it in the rankings and stuff. And it's like, okay, he took bad dudes and made them like just slightly below average dudes. So It's not like he's a magician. It's not like he can take somebody and turn them into Hutchinson. Like
it's not the type of development that we see coming out of Philadelphia.
They don't even, but that's the thing
they pick guys that are more skilled.
There you go. See, they actually put the investment into those guys so that you can take them from maybe a 3rd round talent or a 2nd round talent and make them a top of the league talent.
Yeah. And maybe you get a guy who's a 6th rounder that then as part of that larger group elevates to be like a top guy. So
yeah, like 1 in every 10 of your 6 rounders that you pick in that way. Right. And that'd be a great hit rate, to be honest.
Yeah. Because you're only expecting a guy like potentially to be a backup. Taking a guy that like a guy like Stone Forsythe, a guy that was picked in the 6th round. He performed as a backup for his entire draft career. Yeah. Like that I would consider that a hit in terms of draft pick stock, because you picked a guy in the 6th round that stuck with your team for 4 years.
Yeah. And was a semi-serviceable backup. Yeah. I think that's a hit as well. Absolutely. And they may just be like, look, Lamea, Haynes, Jarrell, who am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting one of the dudes.
You are, but I'm forgetting it too.
Oh, geez, Louise. I can't believe I'm blanking on it, but it's late and I don't care. At the end of the day, like they did by basically punting on free agency when it came to paying any of the guards.
Right.
They are saying, look, we're going to get one of those dudes to play good football. And then with the draft, we're going to get one dude to play good football. And so basically banking on, if they only, let's say they only choose one interior offensive lineman early in the draft, then they're basing one bite at the apple from early in the draft to start at one position, and then one bite at the apple in terms of one of the 3 guys figuring it out. And to me, that's just two less times. Like they should have signed a free agent, had that in their back pocket, spent 2 in the draft of the top 5 to get an interior offensive lineman. So that's 3 bites of the apple. And then, see if Haynes can figure it out, or Lamea, or the kid from LSU. Why am I blanking on his name? Bradford.
Yeah.
Or Jarrell.
Bradford, Haynes, Sundell, Jarrell. Yeah, Laumea, those guys.
Yeah.
And then Josh Jones, who we picked up.
Yeah, who's a backup.
Right.
Which is fine. You need those guys. I'm not even mad at picking him up.
But we need 2 starters.
That's right.
At least guys that are going to push. If they go out and they draft a 3rd round pick, a 2nd round pick at guard, and the guys that we've had before end up beating them out, there's still a level of competition there that it would make me feel like, okay, well, these guys at least, and maybe there still needs to be some development opportunities for the young guys. Maybe they'll win the job eventually, but I'll feel better as a fan.
Yeah, I'd feel better as a fan if for once we just decided to take a massive, huge problem and treat it as such.
But going back to my worry, it's that we get through the draft. It's not addressed meaningfully. And John Schneider comes out and says, well, there's still this time after the draft where guys will get released. We'll still be looking through free agency. I'm not looking for the guys that other teams have tossed aside at this point.
Definitely not. In, kind of the argument that, well, these guys that were in free agency weren't all that great to begin with and all that. Like, okay, so let's say you had a 50-50 shot at Jenkins working out, let's say. Okay, well, I guarantee you that by not signing any of those guys that you have a 0% chance of any of that working out.
Well, the thing about Jenkins, too, here's a guy that you could have brought in and didn't have to pay a whole lot, and then you don't have to spend a draft pick.
Yep.
And it's a guy who's the outcome, then at least you're going to have him as a potential backup over the guys that you're going to end up starting anyway.
Yeah, gives you just a little bit more flexibility, a little like they did with quarterback here with bringing Drew Lock back and just making it so that there's not that urgency. But if one of the guys that you like falls into your lap at a spot that you like in a way, as John has been talking about, the way that you envision acquiring him, then you can go ahead and do that.
It does that. The way the quarterback situation has played out this offseason, it does feel like the 2012 draft because you had T-Jack, you brought in Matt Flynn, you had those guys, and then you get Russell Wilson, and now you have flexibility to move on from one of the guys if you need to.
Yeah, except Geno was significantly better than Tavares Jackson.
Oh, well, I mean, Sam Darnold's better than Matt Flynn or
maybe
T-Jack.
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of the same. It's not that far off with Sam Darnold from the circumstances in which Matt Flynn came to the team with.
It's a little different.
A little. I'm not saying that it's absolutely identical, but we're talking about a difference of what? 11 games?
He put together a full season. Matt Flynn had like one game.
He had 3 or 4.
2.
3.
Glad we negotiated that down. All right.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's, again, one season, 3 games. Like, it's it's not the slam dunk that I think a lot of fans kind of pencil in that, yes, we will get a version of Viking Sam Darnold. And I tend to feel that it's less likely that we get that than more. Some people think that it's more likely than less, and I guess we'll find out. It's the way that we've decided to go. But I'm glad that we have Drew Lock in town, and that's somebody that we can turn to in case it doesn't go our way. And then that would, at worst, really, it just puts us in a place to draft one of the guys next year, which it sounds like the QB class is better, and we can kind of go from there. So,
which is what I was saying back in January, but here we go.
Yeah. I don't like it. I still don't like the move. And because
really, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell.
Yeah. It's okay. Like, we're going to find out going forward. It's an interesting risk to take. No doubt about it.
You know what I like? It's our executive producers, DCH, Ryan Peterson, our live YouTube executive producer, JC Schilling, and the 313th. We also have a member of the flock coming in, Randy, coming in at $8 Canadian a month. Welcome to the flock to Randy.
Heck yeah, man. Appreciate that, Randy. And do we have to like tax him an extra like 5,000% in tariffs since it's coming from Canada?
I'm going to make a deal for anyone outside of the United States that wants to become a member of the flock.
Okay.
Tariff-free memberships.
Are you a free membership trader?
I will. I'm a free membership trader. I believe that they should be free. And if people want to support us, I'm also on board kind of wondering when this no taxes on tips thing's going to roll in, because I do feel like if you're supporting the show, it's kind of like a tip.
For sure. I if they ask me under oath, I will say it's a tip. If anybody needs cover, for sure.
So a big thanks. And while we are negotiating the number of good Matt Flynn games, maybe we should negotiate how many members of the flock we should get until we do our next flagship show.
Interesting. Well, I think members of the flock, let's say, I think 10. I think 10 at the Discord level, I think is doable. And especially after draft night. If you guys don't see the value in what's happening here on draft night and want to become a little flocker, then I don't know what to tell you. Because I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be a really cool event. And I really like everything that we've got going for that.
In honor of Geno Smith and his old number, I'm going to go with 7.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah. It'll probably be 25 now.
I mean, I'd be pretty pumped if it were 25.
Yeah, me too. That would be amazing.
I mean, especially if people find out that I'm actually sending stickers again. Stickers and patches that then they're going to be like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. Like, I've heard that people have joined the flock. They haven't got their stickers. If I'm not getting anything in the mail, I'm not joining. Now you have incentive.
That's right. Look, we've never said it was going to happen fast. We never did that. And I am too stupid and lazy to make it happen. And so it falls on Brandon's lap. And he does a lot
we ran
to begin
out of stickers. We were running low.
Yeah. And look, he sat down. He did the patches. He did the stickers. He did it all. It's all getting mailed out, folks. So if you've been expecting some swag, it's on its way.
Yeah, like expecting it for, I don't know, 2 years or more.
It's not going to be fast. Like
I finally got the prizes out for the 2013 Pick'em League. Now I can start on the 2014 league from last year.
Amazing. Okay. Very good.
I'm cruising. I'm crushing it these last couple months.
You're crushing it. I think we still need a hot intern, but we'll see.
Yeah,
it would speed things up. Mm-hmm. Still getting dirty looks from Brittany on that one.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That joke will never get old for Brittany.
It better not.
We've got Jeff coming in with an email saying, long-time Hakra adherent from Seattle, and for the last 3 years, Japan. Konnichiwa to the other Japanese flockers out there. Eternally grateful to the podcast's hosts for helping me cope, navigate, rationalize, and admonish the tumultuous events and actions of the last 30 days. Given our interior O-line situation, and granted, the film and stats and rotations for 2024 were grim, should we not all be doing a deeper dive and peeling onions to find the trends and from film analysis, which might help explain the confidence management and coaching has in our existing roster? There will be, at most, be one starting offensive line for... Dang it. I just lost my place. There will be, at most, be one starting offensive line member from the draft. So to forecast the 2025 season, shouldn't we better understand the existing roster? I predict that the decision has already been made to move Lucas inside to right guard, and we are drafting Armand Membu at right tackle. Go Hawks. From Jeff.
Hey, go Hawks, Jeff. And appreciate that all the way from Japan there. It sounds like he shares your draft fear, Brandon, of the idea that they're really into their guys and don't feel maybe the urgency that us fans do to do something about the guard position. What do you think about Lucas being knocked inside and the idea of somebody like Membu?
Look, I wouldn't be opposed to having a guy who could also play right tackle just in case that Abe Lucas is not able to fulfill his duties at right tackle. But I think that Abe's going to be fine being out at right tackle based on the way that the season ended. I don't, and some of the words that he had to say, I don't think that this is a chronic issue. I think he was just recovering from a significant injury. And so that's what makes me hopeful, at least, that Abe's going to be able to go out there and play right tackle. I'm not looking necessarily to replace him at right tackle, but like I said, if we had a guy who can also play that spot, there's some benefit to that.
Yeah, there would be some benefit to that. And no, I wouldn't hate it if they brought in a dude who could kick inside or is projected to kick inside, but also has some tackle experience like the Ohio State kid, Jackson. Like, that would be pretty cool. Because you're right, it's not a 100% certainty that Lucas is going to be rolling next year and that we're past this and everything's going to be fine. I am hopeful, as you are, based off of his comments, that it's not just a case of like Jesse Williams old knee and where it's just degenerates and then it's over. But you do want to have some assurances there. Maybe that's what Josh Jones is all about, just bringing him in and hoping that, hey, look, I'm 80% sure that Abe's going to be good to go and continue on a trajectory of a quality starting right tackle, and then we can have Jones as the backup and feel good about life. And maybe then they just draft a straight up guard. Maybe they take the center from Georgia. Maybe they actually, grant Brandon's wish and address the center position.
Just draft the best center in the draft one time. One of these drafts.
Yeah. Instead of a wide receiver from Western Michigan Central Upper Peninsula University or something.
Yeah. From a receiver that's not even, at the Big Sky Conference level.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I think about this draft as we cover it and the picks start coming off the board for the Hawks too, is that I think there's going to be a lot more surprises this year because it sounds as if the competition in terms of how everybody's graded is so tight that like the swings and everybody says Mel Kiper's like, that's a 6th rounder. And then he's drafted in the 3rd by the Patriots or something. And I think that there's going to be a ton of that where the terms reach and that sort of thing or desperation is going to be thrown around quite a bit in this draft. Just a guess.
We've got Marvin in Australia coming in saying, gents, now that Australia is pretty much Seattle's Southern Hemisphere, I'm officially putting in my resume for the Aussie correspondent. Also, now it seems it could be a good chance that Seattle plays in Melbourne in 2026, which is my hometown. Marvin, you're it. You are our Aussie correspondent.
100%. And if that happens, if they're going to Australia, we're going to Australia. I've wanted to go to Australia for so long. And then we could get... Brittany's already volunteered here now off camera that she's in on that trip. So we'd love to come and see you, bud. That'd be awesome.
I'm ecstatic that it's not just the Rams that get to call Australia their, whatever they're calling the team's outreach areas. Now they have some competition, and we kick out all the. If they were even gaining a fan in Australia, that's going to turn around real quick.
Yeah, no, the Rams gained 0 fans in Australia because the fine people of Australia have tastes in more than just their mouth.
All right. We've got John the Bar Davison coming in, says, first of all, Brandon, I hope you had a very happy birthday. I have been in a Seahawks void the last couple of weeks as the huge shock of Newcastle winning at Wembley has sunk in. However, the draft is almost upon us and our gaze turns west as we look to Lambeth. This should be fairly easy. We shopped in free agency and picked up players in positions of need except for the O-line. So the draft is where we pick up guards, centers, and tackles, and maybe a couple of cover positions. Easy, eh? Well, no. We've got John Schneider. If you're telling me you know what's in his mind, then I'm sorry, but... after all the draft, we haven't had drafted any offensive liners. I shudder to think. So, we'll tune in with fingers crossed. Will you be putting tariffs on my emails? Go Hawks! From John the Bar Davison. No, I'm not putting tariffs on Flocker memberships. No tariffs on emails.
No.
Man, these folks who are overseas, they are caught up in these tariffs.
Look, man, why wouldn't they be? It's big news all the way around, right? And boy, howdy, we'll see how all that goes. But so Brandon, a membership free trader. And also a email free trader, but
if I could find a way, though, if I could find a way to put tariffs on Hawk Van Dyke's Discord posts, I would do that.
Yeah, I would say selective tariffs, right? On some of those, like some of them are gold.
At least 200% tariffs, just on those.
I want to put 1,000% tariff on mean comments, like that. That's what I want to do.
There you go.
Yeah.
On anywhere or just like in YouTube?
Oh, sure. Anywhere. Why not? Yeah.
1,000%. So that way, you know that if they're putting it down, like they really mean business, they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah. They're putting their money where their mouth is, like we do with every one of our takes on here, right? Because that's what leads to more flockers and more viewers and the whole thing. Yeah. And it feels like this time of year, man, like I just get freaking lambasted for stuff, and it just
we're all team. I want our team to be awesome.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
We have common ground here.
100%. I'm sorry that I get frustrated this time of year, but again, after the draft, it'll be talk yourself into it season. I'm going to be the leader of the Sam Darnold fan club, and we're going to be all gingers all the time here.
All right. Well, a big thanks to everyone who came in via email. Thanks to our new flockers. GetInTheFlock.com if you want to be a part of it too. Yeah, we got to hit that goal. 7 for me, 10 for Adam, so we need at least 17.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, at least 10. At least 10, just so that I'm righter than Brandon.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, because if let's say there were 8, then you would be closest without going over. Right, exactly. Because this is absolutely, don't get it twisted, this is Price is Right rules. It has to be.
I kind of want you to win in this scenario.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
I consider myself competitive, but I feel like we both win if you win.
I like where we're at here. Yeah.
Because I'm team, I want this podcast to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. You and me both, brother. One of these days I'll get better at doing it, and then it'll be awesome.
Well, you've got 12 years of experience under your belt now. It's bound to kick in at some point.
Any day.
On to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better was made crystal clear this morning when I went to the big box stores in Home Depot and Lowe's to buy some lumber for a project that I'm working on. And I've been spoiled, Brandon, because neighbor Brandon, he's been milling up just cool stuff on his sawmill for like a while. Now, is it the premium creme de la creme of lumber? No, it's rough cut and like it's not perfect and all that. But, it got drug off the mountainside here and it's done with, a couple $1,000 sawmill, right? And so more than meets expectations and, it's fairly quality. But it's been a minute since I've went and bought lumber at the big box stores. So I walked in there, man, and first off, apparently there's just no 4x4s by 8-footers anywhere in the great city of Missoula. Like, those are just gone now. Like, we don't have those anymore. I don't know what happened there. So that was frustrating. And then the few 4x4 by 10s that I've ended up having to get were just garbage. It's the most garbage lumber I've ever bought in my entire life. It should be the catfish that they put on the bottom of the lumber bunks, skids for the forklifts and stuff. Like, and this offends me as somebody who works in these mills and I'm required by these jerk-offs to get the stuff down to 1/1000th of an inch. And I'm getting these 4x4s and they're anywhere from like 3 1/4 inches wide to 3 3/4 inches wide. They're a half-inch difference from board to board, not to mention all the holes and like it crooked and twisted and they were green as hell. Like, you got to put it in the freaking kiln for more than a hiccup, boys. Like, you can't just put it in there for 2 seconds and be like, oh, look at that. Dry. And then for Home Depot and Lowe's to put this crap on their showroom and charge the amount that they're charging, get the catfish out of here. That was one of the most disappointing experiences I've had going to the home improvement store in a long time. So to Home Depot, to Lowe's, to every one of those mills that's putting out this chicken catfish lumber, do better.
How do you not come home from any of your mill trips and be like, hey, can you just throw a couple of 4x4 by 8s in the back of my truck here? Just do me a solid because, I hooked you up. You do quality work. You should get a little kickback in terms of a little bit of lumber.
I've tried to negotiate some trades for jobs, just thinking that it was going to be way better for my deal, but it just too much paperwork. People not interested.
They have to do paperwork for it, huh? You can't just throw a couple of boards in the back.
Well, all of the mom and pops are pretty much gone. So all we're dealing with is these massive corporate mills. In fact, the one I was in Arkansas like a couple of weeks ago was a massive Canadian corporation that just got out by an even more massive Canadian corporation called Domtard or something. And I'm dead serious. That's their name. And it just...
That sounds made up.
I swear that's the name. Like, it was on the coats and everything. But yeah, just wild. So you go into the office and like, hey, want to trade, like old timers and, make make a good deal for everybody here, save you guys a couple bucks. Nope, can't be done. Not that they don't want to do it. It just literally cannot be done.
Yeah, because then they have to get the suits involved.
Yeah. And anytime you get the suits involved, what happens, Brandon? It all gets worse every time for life. Book it.
Might do better this past week. Adam, I went and saw the new Minecraft movie, and so I saw in the headlines this past week that so within the movie, there's parts that the crowd watching the movie really gets into. And I don't play the game like my kids play it. And so I don't necessarily know how it's incorporated. But after going to see the movie, having a good time, I saw this headline: Minecraft movie mayhem raises alarms for America's youth. Bad for society, quote unquote, says expert. And I'm thinking, man, what movie did I watch that that this movie is somehow bad for our society? But I guess because a few kids there's one scene in particular in the movie where the crowd in the theater gets a little rowdy. They throw popcorn, and I don't know how it got to be an interactive part of the show, but it did. But yeah, there's like this fake outrage now about, well, maybe it's actual outrage, I don't know, but that people might be taking these audience participation things within the movie a little far, because the movie theater employees are having to clean up a bunch of popcorn and the theaters look a little bit trashed, which, okay, I feel for the employees at the movie theaters that have to clean this up. That kind of sucks. But also, people are going to the movie theaters, and that's something that I feel like we were kind of getting away from for a while. Like the experience of going to a theater, people were seeing that as maybe take it or leave it. So the fact that there's a movie that's drawing people out and getting people excited, I kind of feel like that's a good thing. And then as part of the same segment, this Fox News story that it was embedded within this headline. It was they tried to shoehorn in some story from a magazine about how theaters are thinking about considering allowing texting. Allowing texting, letting people do legal recreational drug use and have sing-alongs. Those were the three things: texting, drug use, and sing-alongs. And for the fact that those three things were grouped together just kind of baffled me, because texting, have you ever been to a movie theater where somebody didn't take out their phone? Like, I'm pretty sure that that's not illegal. Sing-alongs, you're telling me that if a movie theater wants to show a screening of a movie that has music in it and wants to encourage people to sing along with it, like that's a bad thing?
It is, but that's okay.
Well, for you, it might be.
Yeah.
And the guy, the host, so he hears those three things and he's like, oh, man, if people start singing at movies, that's going to be a problem for me. Oh, you mean the drug use? You're okay with that one, but the singing's the one that you have problems with? Anyway, they took all of these out of context anyway, because you go to think, one of the cool things when I went to Virginia Beach for the first time, it was the first time I got to experience a movie theater where you could get a beer in. And I thought, well, shoot, that's cool. If these smaller theaters, they want to do something that, some of the big chain theaters can't do, and it makes it a little bit more of a special experience. And shoot, if it's legal, then who cares? You can choose to go to that theater or choose to go to the other theater. Like, it gives you more choices. It's fine. But yes, for this one article and taking the Minecraft movie and turning it into something that suddenly raises alarms for America's youth, do better.
This is ripping the fabric of America apart. We are just destined to just go into a spiral of decline. Anytime that your population is throwing popcorn in a movie theater, it's the number one marker. It's like the canary in the coal mine of a society in complete collapse. So, I mean, that's where we're at, obviously. No, that's interesting. And so I find one of the things that is talked about in there, you talked about the drug use, right? So they're saying the legalized drug use, right? I love this. So they're talking about one thing in particular, right? Weed. That's it. They're not talking about real drugs. They're talking about marijuana. And like, if you can go in and chug a beer at a movie theater, you damn well better be able to smoke a joint.
You think?
Yeah. Because, I mean, come on. What are we doing?
It's not super different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be far more outraged at other people singing poorly along with the movie. I didn't come to listen to other people sing.
Then you choose not to go to that event. I feel like with all these things, going into it, that you're going to this knowing that this thing is going to be okay at the theater that you're going to.
It's like Rocky Horror Picture Show, right? When they do those.
This is not a new thing, people. They did this back in the 70s with Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I don't know. There was dudes wearing tights and like, we're all going to die. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, man.
Yeah. And look, wonderful show. And it's stood the test of time. Yep. And very still
popular.
We're doing okay.
But somehow
singing actively encouraged in that show.
Yes, very much so. But we all know on this show how much I can't stand musicals and people doing sing-song voice. So all those movies, it would be easy for me. I would avoid those movies to start with. So, yeah, not a problem.
Well, my Better at Life this week, Adam, is for John Cena saving WWE and defeating the champion, Cody Rhodes. Cena gets his 17th title. Actually, if you're a wrestling fan, you probably got annoyed by the final match at WrestleMania this weekend. But if you're one of our members of the flock, you did benefit from WrestleMania in a big way, because with 2 days of wrestling, Adam, it allowed me the time to sit down, because nobody in my family was sitting down to watch wrestling with me. But I tuned in to the Super Bowl of the wrestling world. And with 2 big days of matches, it allowed me to get done all of our stickers, all of our packages that were delinquent. I was able to sit and watch, multitask, and get the job done. And so I was very happy for this weekend. And yes, so to John Cena and WrestleMania, allowing me to get some work done for the show. Better at Life than Skip Bayless.
Heck yeah, man. No, thanks for that. That semi-passive entertainment that's just perfect for a task like that, right? So, so John Cena won his scripted 17th title. That's amazing.
I mean, it's
aren't they basically the same dude? The blondie guy that he knocked off, and like John Cena, like they even kind of look the same.
Yeah, they are a little bit. John Cena's a bad guy now. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is that because he called Thailand a country?
No,
the Chinese decided he had to be a bad dude? Yeah.
It's because The Rock had him turn on the champ and kick him right in the right square between the legs when he turned down his offer to sell his soul to The Rock.
Oh, amazing. I didn't know Rock was out there taking souls these days.
Oh, yeah. We're deep into storylines here. This is
wow.
And you scoff at the scripted nature of it, but aren't all our favorite shows scripted?
100%. And look, when we went down to Dallas, like we put on some wrestling stuff. I didn't really know that it was such a secret, or not secret, but like guilty pleasure for you, and so got exposed to it a little bit more. And I get it for what it is. I'm sure. Like I can see why it's popular for sure.
Here's the thing: in the off season, I don't have to get involved emotionally. Like I think with it being baseball season, like I get a little bit too caught up in the wins or losses. And so with wrestling, it's like, oh, well, this is just the way it's supposed to be. And then when football season actually comes along, I can turn it off and I don't feel like I have to follow it, because I just know that it's a show that's going to continue and I could pick it up later. And it's, what I missed isn't going to be that important.
Yeah, you can pick up on the highlights of what happened over the last 8 months, and you're right back there.
Yeah, so it's the perfect.
And you don't have to worry.
It's the perfect off-season mindless sport for me.
That's right, and you don't have to worry about if John Cena's gonna draft a guard. Like he's fine. He creates his own protection. Yeah. All right, man. My better life than Skip Bayless this week is for Aaron Rodgers. And no, you didn't hear it wrong. You didn't hear it wrong. I know that, especially as Seahawks fans, kind of persona non grata around here. But I got to say, I am not hating the whole Aaron Rodgers not making a decision and just playing the Steelers for months now. And now they're kind of just screwed waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision about, his personal life and all that. And if he even wants to play, and then they have to bank on some dude that they might have to draft at 21 that's overdrafted by 3 rounds, like Kenny Pickett not long ago. I have no problems watching the Steelers twist in the frickin' wind all by their own making, and Aaron Rodgers doing his little puppet master stuff and making it tough on him. It's really filled up my football cup here for the last couple of weeks. And for that, Aaron Rodgers is better in life than Skip Bayless.
You know what's even better about this is the fact that they're going to get to the point to where Aaron Rodgers is probably their only option. And we've seen the Steelers go hang on to the tattered what was left of Ben Roethlisberger for way too long, and then move on to Kenny Pickett, and then move on to Russell Wilson and what was left of him. And now they're doing the exact same thing with Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to be a playoff winning franchise with Aaron Rodgers, but they're going to get to the point to where it is going to be their only option to be competitive. And that kind of makes me happy that the Steelers get to be just on that fringe of being a good team and bad team. They're just missing the quarterback. And that kind of makes me happy a little bit.
Brandon, it really is just a lazy narrative that the Steelers have been bad at quarterback for over half a decade now. And, every team's looking for a quarterback.
Team's looking for a quarterback. We're looking for our members of the flock at $12 and above. We want to thank you. We are giving you our April shout out to everyone who is supporting the show at 12 and above. Let's hear from them.
Keith Kedover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
Hello, this is Hock Van Dyke from London, the 2024 champion of the Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League.
Lisa in Seattle.
Samuel Gelber, NoHo, California.
David Van Cleve, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Leo Jesse, Luleå, Sweden, from Luleå Eskimos and Vancouver Front.
Aaron Fisher, coming in from Henderson, Nevada. Go Hawks!
Chris Boucher, a.k.a. the biggest little flocker, South Central Louisiana State University. Go Mud Dogs.
Hey, it's JC Schilling, back from Germany, living on beautiful Whidbey Island now with Quinn and Hudson.
Go Tyler! Go Gino!
Go Hawks!
Hey Seahawkers, my name is Garen Taylor. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, North Idaho. Hashtag on the roads. Go Hawks.
You heard from our executive producers, DCH and JC Schilling. Also a big thanks to YouTube Live executive producer Ryan Peterson. And continuing down the list of $12 supporters and above, starting with Rebecca in Manhattan Beach, Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Craig in Camas, Jeremy in the Bronx, Sven in Berlin, Deutschland, Kevin in Great Glen, England, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Brandon in Huntersville, North Carolina, Jay in Linwood, Brian in Omak, Hector in Monroe, Jake in Seattle, James in Beaux Arts, Pepper in Greer, South Carolina, Brian in Berlin, Connecticut, Kevin in Surrey, BC, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, JC in Horsford, England, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Jeffrey in Kansas City, John in New York City, Patrick in Sacramento, Bryson in Eltopia, Jeremy in Federal Way, Glenn in Ocoee, Florida, Kenneth in Hutto, Texas, Jeff in Bainbridge Island, Paul in Portland, Daniel C. in the Greater Hawkdom, Norma in the Greater Hawkdom, Mario in Seattle, Cora in Ditters, Deutschland, Anders in Violet, Denmark, JC in the Greater Hawkdom, Warren in Dundee, Oregon, Chris in Austin, Amy in Squim, Richard in Killeen, Texas, Joseph in Vancouver, Joshua in the Greater Hawkdom, Rafe in Beaverton, Oregon, Eugene in Henderson, Nevada, Ryan in Salt Lake City, Utah, Marlon in the Greater Hawkdom, Jamie in Oswestry, England, DJ in Menifee, California, Phoebe in the Greater Hawkdom, Alexander in Oranienburg, Deutschland, Kayla in Vancouver, Mark in Bexley Heath, England, Ryan in Fairbanks, Alaska, Jeff in Gilbert, Arizona, Gordon in Valdez, Alaska, Andrew in Phoenix, Jason in Panama City, Florida, Sean in Cascade, Iowa via Kalispell, Montana, Richard in Kellogg, Idaho, Oliver in Fort St. John, BC, Ian in Seattle, Brian in New York City, Russell in Harpenden, England, Sam in Alamonte Springs, Florida, Chris in Manchester, England, Greg in Lake City, Colorado, Charles in Bremerton, Corey in Robertson, Australia, Max in Kelowna, BC, Stuart in Navarre, Florida, Nathan in Fife, Marty in Melbourne, Australia, Luke in DuPont, RJ in Bucyrus, Kansas, Nathaniel in Solna, Sweden, Martin in Ferrum, Denmark, Jeremiah in the Greater Hawkdom, Root in the Greater Hawkdom, and Jack in San Diego. And there it is. See, we're not hanging on to a tattered podcast. No, this podcast is strong. It's not a lazy narrative that we're looking for new members of the flock. It's that people want to flock toward the show, Adam.
That's exactly right. And increase their Hakara and get everything set to jet for this upcoming season, which promises to have a lot of intrigue, a lot of fun, especially defensively, man. I listening to Mike talk a little bit about defense and all that in the last couple times he's got on camera. It does get the juices flowing a little bit. I'll be curious to see, do the Seahawks in this draft, Brandon, do they just double down on a strength?
Ooh.
Or do they try to balance out the team? We're going to find out, man, coming up here in just a couple days.
Our next show, we're going to know, and it's going to be a lot of fun going out there and hanging out with our members of the flock at the Clearwater Casino, getting to meet some people for the first time, getting to see some old friends. Man, we're going to have a blast out there in Washington. Please, if you're going, make sure you stop by our table, say hi, and let's have some fun this weekend.
Yes, please do. And look, man, if you're showing up at the casino for this event, dude, it's going to be impossible to do with a frown. It's going to be a great time. Clinton's fired up. I'm fired up. I know you're fired up, man. Can't wait to see you all there.
I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.